So get on that, please. 7:18. Let's keep it in the KUAM News Zoom room where we have from the Chamber of Commerce, Christine Baleto, and from the Guam Hotel Restaurant Association, Mary Rhodes. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Kristen Bree.
Good morning.
I wanted to bring you guys on. Well, kind of just, I know we had Catherine on a couple days ago, but just to kind of get an update. And then I know there's a couple issues you wanted to bring up here. But I guess we'll start with Mary, hotels, restaurants. And, you know, Christine, what you can add to. How are they faring under this current set of conditions that we're living under?
Well, I know that a lot of the businesses have been adjusting with being at 25% for indoor dining. And I know that we're looking to go possibly to increase that number. But the CAR score has been higher than what it's been the last couple of weeks. But the businesses are having to adjust because they have been closed for some time. And, you know, it's not easy in reopening businesses. It's not as easy as everybody thinks because especially with hiring of employees and getting actually the inventory back is a challenge, especially knowing, you know, distributors might not have had regular orders and just being prepared to go in. So when we say, you know, we're going to reopen within a day or two, it's just not as easy. And some businesses still haven't decided to open yet. Even at 25%. So we're looking forward to increasing that number to 50% eventually or soon, and then into higher numbers, knowing that the vaccine is here and rapid testing has started. And so it's really important to get all of those strategies in place as we continue to mitigate so we can develop some normalcy, some sense of normalcy for operations, for businesses, and also employees returning to work. It's been a while for some people, and it's really important that they continue to monitor, mitigate it, and to really maintain operations so that we don't go backwards. As we all know, has been very challenging for us when you go back and forth between PCORs.
Are you guys hearing, though, that we heard from Lieutenant Governor yesterday that the governor's more than likely to restore the island in P-Core 2. And having said that, is that what you guys are hearing? And also, have you heard what sort of lifting?
That's what we're hearing, but keep in mind, P-Core 2 is pretty much where we're at, where we have retail open at 50%. You know, as Mary mentioned, we'd like to see in dining move to 50%, and perhaps some of the other business understanding that bars are still kind of the taboo word. Every time we mention it, you know, there's this, you know, response because of just the nature of bars and the risk of spreading the disease in sort of their business model. But essentially, we are pretty much at P-Core 2. Where we want to be is to move towards P-Core 3. And, you know, again, as Mary mentioned, with the vaccines, you know, on island and our inoculation schedule, it seems, you know, that we're ahead of schedule and we're being very aggressive. We hope that at the same token, then that allows us to open more and more. We've been talking to the governor about raising occupancy for retail and some of the low-risk business to 75%, even though it's just a declaration of P-Core 2. So we're pushing for the P-Core 2.25. 2.5 and 2.75 and hope that, you know, kind of how we've been doing over the last few months is just get businesses open, because, you know, in some cases, you know, even at 25%, and there's some businesses or restaurants that can't do outdoor dining, 25% is not enough to even pay the rent or attempt to bring people back to provide service to the customers. And so, you know, we really hope to move that forward and try to get on that road of recovery as the vaccinations continue to be administered throughout our people.
All right, so you said you've been talking to the governor. So what has been her feedback?
Well, we've been meeting a little bit more regularly since the new year, actually probably in December. And, you know, the CAR scores look really, really good. And so we had hoped actually 2 weeks ago that we would have been already at 50% in dining, but unfortunately, every time there's a little spike in that CAR score, she becomes very, very cautious. She obviously doesn't want us to go back to a complete shutdown. And so we have a meeting actually with her today. We're hoping, because we've requested with the CAR score going up, is that internal to our community, or is that based on the positive numbers that are coming from the QFAC? And if it's from the QFAC, then basically we're doing a good job, right, of controlling the spread by stopping those that have the virus when they come in from spreading it in the community. And so we're really asking her to focus a little bit more just on the internal, and if internally our CAR score is still, very, very low, then obviously we're requesting that more businesses be allowed to open so that we could get our people back to working.
Christine, when you say we've been meeting, are you talking as in the Chamber of Commerce, or are you talking as in the Economic Recovery Panel of Advisors?
Yeah. Is that still a thing?
The advisory panel.
Okay.
Okay. We had
it's sort of been revived.
Wow. Nice.
We've been meeting a lot more regularly, and perhaps what it was when we were in the midst of such high numbers and the unfortunate passing of some of our community members. Talking about reopening was just something she wasn't willing to entertain. So as the numbers started to go down, then we were called back into these meetings. And so, like I said, just I would think it was like in December is where we started really meeting regularly again and discussing reopening.
Right. We had Lieutenant Governor on yesterday, and he said that he's anticipating by the end of the week or next week that the way he said it, it seemed like they're going to increase the capacities. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure for what industries, but he did say that that's going to happen before the bars reopen. So that was what we got from Adelup yesterday.
Yeah, and that pretty much goes in line with it's right. We developed this whole reopening, and it was based on PCOR, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there are certain milestones within each of those levels, and we're kind of not following it completely, but it still provides.
Kind of. Yeah, they threw that out the window, Christine.
It provides some kind of roadmap. So for us, like I mentioned, it's picking and choosing. A lot of the times what they feel is able to reopen. One of the things that we've suggested, at least on the chamber side, and I'm always the wild one, unfortunately, but it was like, well, can we open retail and low risk at 75 or 100%? Because again, this is not where the spread is happening. If anything, most of the numbers point to social gatherings, the barbecues, the funerals, and so, when we increase social gathering without increasing necessarily the capacity of the businesses, that's a concern because we're tied to those positive numbers. And so we're trying to kind of strike a balance and, really push for especially low risk businesses, or provide options. In the case of restaurants, there are some restaurants out there that have put up plexiglass separators. They've installed air filtration. They're doing the contract tracing logs and so forth. And so they're doing everything that they need to do, and they have the ability. So the question that was asked is, can we give that consideration for those businesses that have gone above and beyond, to make sure that their customers are protected? And so, again, it's a discussion that's ongoing. We really are trying to push for especially the low risk and the retail, as well as moving restaurants to 50% and hoping to get a little bit more open. So when we say we're going into PCOR 2, as I shared with Bree, technically we are already there.
I think we're in PCOR 3.
The PCOR level.
PCOR 5.
And we're really trying to push for PCOR 3 at this point.
Right.
But, like I said earlier, I think that a lot of us has been very frustrated because all the businesses have been following those protocols. And nothing has been traced back to them specifically over these months. And it's just been a long process, and it continues to be subjective. And so we would like to be a lot more objective and to allow the businesses to maintain those protocols and continue to operate. And I think that everything is in place for them to operate safely. And we have other things in place that helps the community to be safe, like vaccines and rapid testing. So I think that we need to kind of move on and realize that we've gone to a point where we've given everybody goals, the community, the businesses, we've kind of helped guide them through this process. And I would like to see that we start moving forward, because as you can see, even it's affecting the way even we promote our island and our ability to even get testing at the airport for inbound and outbound travel. We can't even have those conversations if we're continuing to stay in PCOR 1/PCOR 2.
Well, you mentioned you have a meeting with the governor later, and one sure way to screw up a meeting with Maga Haga is to go on the link with Senator Moylan the morning of.
Oh no.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Senator.
that was my good morning.
It's for another issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the opening.
Right. And so, I mean, I know you guys are asking about, or asking to increase the capacities, but like I said, Lieutenant Governor kind of already showed us that the inclination is there to do that. So what would be the next issue that you guys would want to bring to the attention of the governor?
Well, we asked.
Go ahead,
We have
Mary.
to come on basically because there are other things we have to start thinking about, is really getting the economy going. And part of that is the Republican Party did put out their letter with regards to some of their initiatives this year. But one thing that wasn't on there that GHRA and Guam Chamber of Commerce have been discussing actually since late last year with some of the senators, and we're really grateful that Senator Moylan has agreed to take this on, is deferring the minimum wage increase. I know that we were on your show, both Chris and I were on your show sometime last year, like November, and we had talked a little bit about other things that we could look forward to, like a deferral on minimum wage. And so we're really grateful because Senator Moylan has agreed to move forward with that. I've been in discussion with a couple of other senators, but he certainly is taking the lead on this, and maybe he can explain what his process will be to introduce this. And we need organizations like Chamber, GHRA, and other organizations to come out and really support this effort to defer it for at least 1 year, because right now, just businesses in the economy, we cannot afford any increases in 2021.
Senator Moylan, Minority Leader of the 36th Guam Legislature. So, is it a bill, or what? How are you trying to do this?
Well, yes, and good morning, everyone, and thank you to the Chamber of Representation and Mary and Christine, and good morning, Chris and Bree. Yes, what we have to do really is really look at how we can assist as a legislature, how we can assist to rebuild our economy. We have heard what we need to do and how we are improving with the general health of the people going through this pandemic. What is the next move, right? We are very involved, as they explained, the Guam Hotel Restaurant Association and the Guam Chamber is very involved with the governor to reopen the economy. So as your senator, what can I do to assist? And it's very clear. We know our general fund is in a bad situation, basically, right? What we projected for our funding to be for this fiscal year, we're not reaching that point. How is it going to be in the following year? Probably not any better, unless what was explained, that we can open up our businesses to full capacity and hire the people. The general fund is greatly affected by two things. That's the BBT, business privilege tax, the corporate tax, and then the employee tax, payroll tax. Those things are not generating as expected, and they won't unless we help the small businesses, unless we help our hotels get back to business, and so we can get these 27, almost 30,000 people back employed. We're so fortunate that the extension of the PUA has been made, and we're awaiting for that to generate back into the system, and it will come. But in the meantime, what do we need to do? We have to help these small businesses open their doors. How I can assist is by reducing the taxes and by reducing the fees. We know that in the 35th Guam legislature, we did pass the percentages of minimum wage increase on a 50 cents increase, and the next one is coming up. It's coming up in March. To do this at this point will be it will be a great struggle that we're putting on to the businesses when they want to open their doors now, when they want to hire their employees now. And now we're telling them you must increase the minimum wage from at this point. Possibly some can, and there's nothing to say they won't do it. But at the same time, to mandate it at such a difficult time, it's difficult. Are we more concerned about doing this at this point, or should we be concerned about allowing the companies to hire as many people as possible, allowing the businesses to open their doors finally after 9-10 months? And what would they expect when they finally open their doors? The amount of projection and profitability that they expected? Probably not, when they're limited with the amount of customers that come in based on their type of services they provide. So yes, I'm looking at a measure to introduce shortly to postpone, not stop the minimum wage increase of the next 50 cents increment, but just postpone for 1 year until, or to give the time for the businesses to reestablish, to pay their bills, to order their inventory, to hire their employees. And I'm sure as the economy comes back, because I'm very confident it shall, since we're doing much better with our scores and our health, and these companies, when they open their doors, they're not going to do it hastily, right? They're going to do it properly with the equipment. They'll be concerned for their customers. They'll be also more concerned as well for their employees, because they don't want to close their door because something went wrong. They want to open it and keep it open, and so they can get back into business. And by doing so, we'll be able to generate then the BBT that we expect, the salaries that we expect for the employees as well, and competition will come on back. So to answer your question, yes, I'm looking at a bill to introduce here shortly to postpone the minimum wage increase until the following year.
Let me play devil's advocate.
That would help the business open it.
Let me play devil's advocate and go to bat for the little folks. As challenging and difficult as you guys say it'll be for the businesses to shoulder this minimum wage increase in March, it's got to be equally difficult and challenging for those minimum wage earners who are banking on this increase to their pay. So what would you say to those minimum wage earners out there who, 50 cents extra an hour to a lot of people it means a lot.
So I think that's always been the conflict that's out there, is that the minimum wage earners need it as much as the businesses to kind of thrive and survive. But the reality is that especially in these times, as the senator mentioned, when we're just struggling to stay open, if you're even open, right? And as you come back, you've just gone months and months without any kind of income. You need to pay rent, you need to pay the business loan, you need to pay for the operations. And, if you're not able to do that, then you can't pay people. You simply shut your doors. We know for a fact that a lot of the small to medium businesses, owners are back in. They're not even paying employees. They're doing the work themselves because they simply just cannot afford. So, basically what it comes down to is being able to sustain your employees at the current rate, or not having any employees, or having less employees. It's just the reality. And, oftentimes I try to break it down as simply as possible to say, when you run a business, it's like running your home finances. You have a job, you need to pay the mortgage, you need to pay the food, you need to pay all your expenses. If you lose your job, you can't continue to pay, a stipend to your kids or anybody doing work around your house, because you simply just cannot do it. And So as you know, all we're asking is for a delay in this time where you know, businesses are just struggling to survive and reopen, to give them an opportunity to stabilize so that we can bring the employees back, and then you know, look to give them those increases. And you know, again, with what's being proposed for those businesses that are doing well, that have been able to remain open, you know, there's nothing to preclude them from moving forward with that raise. And I know in some instances businesses do that, you know, just to get prepared, and it doesn't hit them later on. They just kind of absorb it. But when you're not doing well, you're not in a position to do that, and it means more people unemployed.
Right, but
you know, you look at the entry level positions. A lot of them is in the tourism industry. A lot of them is in the restaurants, and these guys are the hardest hit with respect to this pandemic. So, you know, I mean, if we don't give consideration to the businesses, then we can expect more to shut down, basically.
You also have to remember, the reality is when businesses reopen, or if they're going to rehire people, the volume of business is not going to be there. It's going to be very difficult to replace 1.5 million tourists on Guam with 170,000 people who are local residents and military. It's just not going to happen quickly. And so the volume is not there. So what Chris said is, you know, a lot of people are going to be operating with limited staffing for a while. It's just not going to happen. But, you know, this is always a myth in the service industry and hospitality that, yes, maybe they are making minimum wage, but they're also making tips and service charge and other things. So their total compensation is usually actually higher than that of an hourly wage for entry level. And so it's always not fair to categorize that the wage earners at the entry level are always in the service industry, because they actually end up earning more because of service charge and tips. But going back to the operations itself, this is really, you know, being planned out so that we can ask for the deferral to allow businesses to steadily grow back into some kind of a normal operation, which is going to take a while. You know, it's going to take like 1 to 2 years at least to see our levels back to where, probably not even where we're normally seeing it. So I just don't think that the volume will be there unless something drastically happens with more military come to Guam, or more other types of businesses, or with tourism. Just really Guam becomes ideal for a lot of tourists as a short stay, because they don't want to travel too far because of COVID, or because Guam becomes this very safe destination for them, because we have our act together on the inbound and outbound travel with COVID testing immediately available for tourists. So there's a lot of things that still has to happen. But the reality is that business, the volume is not going to be there for businesses to return back to some kind of normalcy for a while. And so we need to do everything we can to not increase costs, but just to defer that additional wage increase, because you know there are other things down the pipeline for increases, like with utilities being planned, and so costs are increasing anyway, and it's just with lower volume in total sales and revenue, it's going to be a very difficult reopening for a lot of people.
Right, but what would be your response to people who might say that you're just wasting your breath on all of this, wasting the ink on your printer over there, Senator Moylan? Considering the fact that, you know, reality, you know, the governor really hasn't done anything for businesses.
Well, not wasting the ink, and the message needs to be put out there. And basically, when as introducing any measure, any bill, the discussion, it brings about the discussion. And through the help of the community, if this bill will still have a public hearing, and the community then comes out and speaks about it. Then from there, we hopefully to move it to session floor, and then the debate is started, and then the votes are taken. So this I wouldn't say at all any measure that any senator does is meant for a purpose, and the real purpose is to get the discussion and to understand the public's concern and the businesses' concern as well, to move it forward and to vote for in favor or not in favor.
Well, would the Republican minority senator, is it a done deal that they would all support this measure? And have you
I think
polled your other colleagues down there?
Right. The discussion, it needs to be there. And from that point, then we all make our individual decisions. As the Republican Party, we are definitely in favor of promoting small businesses, promoting enterprises, promoting people taking the risk to open their business, hiring people, providing the right benefits to the employees. With salary also comes benefits, the benefits such as health insurance, retirement, and also paying your taxes to the government of Guam, which again is our main source of income into the general fund, the business tax and the employee payroll tax too. Without those things, it is extremely difficult for the government to survive. And our job, I think, as lawmakers is to ensure that we provide the services necessary to protect and enhance and promote businesses to open. This being one of them. Yes, it's very important that we can increase our base pay, our starting pay for everyone that is employable and willing to work. And this does not, what we're trying to attempt to do here does not prevent the employer to do such a thing. If the employer so wishes to pay the employee $1 more as a starting wage just to come on in, we're not restricting that. But what I am saying is that do not mandate it, allow it for this time, especially when we need to open up to hire, the ability for that employer to hire maybe instead of one, maybe two, or instead of one part-time, maybe one full-time, because they can afford it. It all has a great impact that is difficult to fully understand the impact unless we are the employer, unless we are the ones doing that and looking for the employee dedicated that we can train and that who can be trained and who can provide the service we're looking for, who may refer somebody else because they enjoy their company or their employer and the job they do, and bring on more and more people.
I think it's pretty interesting
grows,
that
we can better that.
We're having this conversation on the private sector side. Meanwhile, on the public side of things, we just reported yesterday that while businesses are here on the show begging, the administration continues to hire people at salaries that I believe are not justified. They picked up the Democratic Party chair at a clip of $80,000 a year in salary. They picked up losing senatorial candidate Frank Leon Guerrero, who we understand is going to be making $92,000 a year in salary. They transferred the former assistant chief procurement officer from that role to head the recovery office, and that came with a nifty $10,000 raise. They also moved the deputy of Rev and Tax to be the banking insurance commissioner. That came with a $10,000 raise. So I just think it's unfortunate that you guys come up against a wall when you try and discuss these measures with the governor, and you don't really get the time of day. But on the government of Guam side, they continue to hire people like we're in economic boom time. I mean, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Chris and Bree, it's our jobs to advocate for the businesses, and we have to continue to go those routes. And with the new legislature, we hope that they're a lot more active this year, and with a more balanced, legislative party between 8 and 9. With the 8 and 7, it's really key that we get the sponsors to help co-sponsor this bill as well, so that it doesn't fall on deaf ears, that we get enough sponsors in there so that we can get it through, whether it's this bill or another bill that has another version attached to it, whatever it takes. I think that we have to do our jobs as business leaders, as advocates for the private sector, to do everything we can while we can to make sure we are really doing everything possible to get our economy going, because otherwise, what is the point? We can't run ourselves into a deficit, into the ground. We have to pay attention to the numbers. And I really hope that the legislature gets behind, bills like this, and really we can get bipartisan support, knowing it's the right thing to do for our economy. And I know I'm always idealistic when I come on your show and I talk about a lot of things, and certainly, you know, the programs we've introduced have not been fully funded either. And but you know, we never stop there, and we continue to find ways, and there's ways around it. Even working with this administration, there's still ways in finding opportunities, but it's a never-ending challenge for sure. Regardless of which administration you work with, there's always going to be different elements that influence this. But that's why we have a legislative branch, and an executive branch, and we need to work with the legislative branch first and foremost to get this through and to get some attention to it.
Well, I agree. Hopefully, the legislative branch in this term will be more like a legislative branch and less like an executive branch 2.0. We got to run. Thank you for your time, ladies. Senator Moylan, we wanted to ask you about these couple of bills that you have up. You know, and that's why I made the joke at the beginning that if you're, you know, a meeting with the governor, you might not want to stand too close to Senator Moylan, because he's introduced this deputy director, kill the deputy directors bill. You just introduced, I saw yesterday, you have a bill to defund the liaison offices, which I assume includes former Congresswoman Madeline Berdalio's position. And there was another one, right?
There's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yes, they are. And those are all measures to reduce the cost, our budget, and focus on prioritizing what we have into the important things right now. Yeah. So basically, in the liaison office, we're just saying don't mandate it. Right now, that the liaison office falls under the governor's preview, under the governor's budget. And that's exactly where it should be. I'm not saying that the position is not necessary. What the bill is proposing is that the position not be mandated. That position can stay as long as the governor so wishes. And where it's at now, where it's funded, is under the governor's budget. Let's just not mandate it, because once you mandate it, then we have to put aside the funds for the purpose of paying that. And we need to focus on prioritizing certain things. Deputy director positions, possibly, right? Maybe just a few. But again, these measures are all just to start this discussion. What I've really been asking the governor to do is please provide us your economic recovery plan. I understand that there's a task force created, but let's get the economic recovery plan going. So myself and the other senators can do bills and different measures to support that. We all want our government to succeed, to provide the services necessary so that businesses and schools and public health and public safety can survive. Adding on different jobs right now, you know, that's on the preview of the governor. But what I'm doing as an co-equal branch of government is being the voice of who I'm listening to here, and who I continue to listen to, of the organizations that represent thousands of people that are looking for ways to feed their family right now. And I think that should be the priority. And by doing so, and by going through the measures and taking this bill as far as it can, and getting it onto the floor for the final vote, that's the best I can do. It's not a waste of paper, and it's nothing to say anything against the governor, right?
Oh, really? It's nothing to say anything against the governor? Come on now.
Is there an economic recovery plan that you're aware of, Christine, as a member of the economic panel of advisors?
I know, the Chamber of Commerce did a white paper on some economic diversification initiatives that we presented to the governor. She has established a task force or a working group committee that's a combination of chamber and some government officials to work on those different industries. That's really focused on diversification. So I suppose it's a component of recovery. But anything beyond what we're doing, I'm not aware of.
Okay, guys. I'm sorry.
No, I said so.
So no. Yeah, no. Remember the economy panel of advisor thingamabob they weren't even meeting until we brought it up last year, and then it was like, oh, but KUAM's on it. We got to meet, guys. Sorry.
But good luck.
Right.
Yeah.
Good luck on.
Yeah,
everything.
and well, Chris and Bree, if I can just add, I had the opportunity to review the economic or the white paper also, and really we can take actions right now, and these are measures I've attempted to in the 35th Guam legislature. I'm recommending on those 3 bills that are proposed is one, increase the Dave Santos,
Exemption.
right? Yes, from $250,000 to $500,000, helping small businesses defer those taxes and allowing them the ability to grow and hire more employees. My goodness, that's what it's about. Let them grow and let them hire more employees. Stop with the deputy director positions. Of course, we can have the discussion on what's priority, corrections, education, and health. Maybe keep those possibly, but start the conversation. And then to finally, to reduce the BBT tax from 5% to 4%. When we were doing terrific, that conversation, it was difficult for me to have with my colleagues then, and difficult for that measure to move forward. However, now times are very difficult, and we need to help the businesses survive. And by doing this, I believe that we can help the businesses survive, and plus allow them to hire more people, and eventually give them the wages that they feel is competitive and fair for their employees, so they can maintain their employees.
Okay, we got to go.
I'm not going to give up the fight.
Right on, right on. Thank you, Senator. Mary, thank you.
Thanks. Mary Christine.
Thanks, everybody.
Christine, it's great to see you guys. I haven't seen you since last year.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for always having us.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you got it. Anytime.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay, that's that, Joss. Sorry, had to wrap that quick. We've got some other guests in the KUAM News Zoom room. We'll just get right into it. We'll bring on Principal of FD, Ishmael Perez, and Dr. Juan Flores, Catholic Schools as Superintendent, and find out where we are when it comes to face-to-face learning.